Hello, Virtual Doll Convention, and welcome. So we are out here in Fortville, Indiana at Dolly Mama's Museum of Dolls and Toys. We have been hired as appraisers to come and consult and help the family with what they are going to do with these wonderful contents inside and help them with their next steps. So I'm going to give you a backhand tour of some of the things that happen when we have assignments like this. We're going to go inside and you're going to come along with us. But there's one rule for this tour, and this is when we go off-roading. Do you remember our rule? Keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times. This is for your safety and for the safety of our performers. Are you ready? This place is so cool. Let's go. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to give you a first-hand look at everything that's here. So when we first come to an appraisal assignment or any kind of assignment, the first thing we do is a walk around. We walk around and we see what's there. And then we can come up with our plan of what we are going to do. So I knew that you would like to see what's here at this place. So let's just do that. So as we look around, you can see there's all kinds of different themes. There's all kinds of different things. It's all grouped together in thoughtfully, but in different themes in different ways. In this room, there's a little bit of everything. A lot of things I'm learning about too. But some of the things that stuck out in this room in particular are the vintage pedal cars. There's 3 right there. The Bayer Aspirin pace car is pretty fun too. And then of course, for our Barbie collectors, you gotta love the Barbie Corvette. All the vintage Barbie dolls right here. Barbie and Ken just celebrated their birthdays, so it's fun to see them. And then of course the Barbie house and all the other Barbies over there. Let's just peek into Eric's here filming, and he's doing such a good job. We've had to film so much stuff while we're out here. But let's backtrack and go into one of the rooms over here. So there's all different rooms. This room in particular is filled with tins. Lots and lots and lots of tins. Take a peek. Another one of the rooms that I thought was pretty fun is this schoolroom over here. Check it out. Look at the dolls in the desk. There's a ventriloquist. There's a couple. I think they look like Play Pal dolls. They're just kind of hanging out. As we go through, look for treasures. That's what we do. We look for different things for the family. We're helping to identify the things that are here that might have a higher fair market value than some of the other things. That's what they need to know from us, is the information. What is something that we need to know that could be worth thousands of dollars, $1,000, $500, $2, $10? That kind of information is what they want to know when we come into a job like this. We're consultants on this job, and we come through and we give them the information, and that information is my opinion based off of my experience. So I say, in my experience, here's what I have had happen when I have priced similar items or sold similar items or handled similar items. And that's the information that we give them, that I give them. This room is fun. This is a big room, so we're going to spend a lot of time in here. But just take a peek at all of the wonderful Disney memorabilia. So many pieces of childhood nostalgia. You can tell that Phyllis, who owned this wonderful place, she had a lot of fun putting all of this together. Now, I knew this was a place that I could hang out in, that I knew was my kind of thing, when I saw the First Wives Club cut out right on the wall. This is fun, and this is one of my favorite movies, so get it, girls. In this case, there's all kinds of different fun things. One of the things that stuck out was some of the different board games and some of the different tin toys. Some of these tin toys right here that you're going to see in a second, like right there. These are, a lot of them are by Marks, and especially this one playing right here. We're going to have to see if that works, but those are pretty popular, and those can sell for a lot of money. So it looks like a couple of them even have boxes. When I look at walls like this is where I have to start using my eye, where I can look quickly and discern what is here. So what I am looking for, first of all, are going to be dolls that are antique, that are rare, that are something that maybe Phyllis didn't, because Phyllis she loved dolls, and she got dolls from everywhere. She rescued dolls from everywhere. If there was a doll that she wanted, she got it and she brought it here. But sometimes, and this has happened to me a lot with collections and a lot with my assignments, I'll go through and I will find something that might be worth $5,000 or $10,000, and they bought it at Goodwill, or they got it at Savers, or some kind of jumble sale, and it ends up being something really important. So that's one of my jobs. So as soon as I look, the first thing that I do, for instance, this bisque doll right here, the first thing I did is I looked to see if she was an antique or if she is a reproduction. She is a reproduction, and I can tell that just by looking at it. But that's one of the things that is good to have as a discerning eye, because you can literally scan a room, scan a wall, and it can take you a matter of just a few minutes to know. And then you can impart that information to the people that you are working with. Phyllis wanted to have a little bit of everything. Everything she wanted to have every era represented. And it is. So we have full-size bicycles right here. This is a horse that came off of a carousel. These figures, yeah, look at those bicycles. And then those figures right there in the back, they came off of the It's a Small World ride in Disney, when they used to dismantle their rides when they were updating them, and they would sell the figures. They don't do that anymore, but they did back then, and Phyllis snapped up a couple pairs from there. So one of the questions you might be wondering is, how do I look up stuff? So if I just didn't know off the top of my head what the fair market value might be on something, how do I look it up, or where do I get that information? And as an appraiser, and just as anybody that is wanting to look up the fair market value on something, you can use a number of markets to look up your prices. What is fair market value? Fair market value is the price that a willing buyer and a willing seller is willing to do to trade money for the item. They can't be under any compulsion to sell, and it has to be a fair market day. And what we usually do is, when we're looking for prices, is we'll get an average. So if we look up something, okay, hear me out, but if we were looking up the Jerry Springer doll, we would look up to see, we wouldn't just see one price. Like if it's sold on eBay on a good day, let's say for $100. I wouldn't just say, okay, then it's worth $100, because that might not be true. We have to look at different market trends and see. So what we would do is we would look at the Jerry Springer doll. We would look it up on, I use a website called WorthPoint a lot. You can use eBay, you can use Etsy, you can use Ruby Lane, you can use a lot of different markets if you can see the sold price, and it has to be within the last year. And you look at the different sold prices, and then you take an average. So I like to look at 3 or 4, and then I take an average price. So that's how it works. Now, some stuff you're not going to be able to look up, and that's when an appraiser's experience in the field comes in, because they can give you their opinion based off of their experience and what they've seen in the past. And some of it has to do with my hunch or my gut feeling about something. So that's what I did here. I gave a lot of opinions on things, such as this really cute little store mannequin that is a child. You don't see children's store mannequins very often. Usually it's mostly adults. This doesn't have a high fair market value, but it's a little bit more sought after because it's a child than an adult, because there aren't as many. How we doing out there? Are you having fun? It's fun to look around, isn't it? It's always fun to look around. And Phyllis had a lot of fun putting this together. Over the years, she welcomed tons and tons and tons of people from all over the country, even all over the world, and she would give them 2-hour tours. And if you look at her guest book, you can see that they had a lot of fun. It was all good feedback. So you're probably wondering, what am I going to say that the family does with all of these things? Because their goal is to sell and to move the collection. They wanted to sell the collection as a whole to somebody. They've been trying to do that for a while, and it hasn't been possible. And they need to sell the collection so that they can eventually sell this beautiful building that it is in right now. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And one of the things that I help is help talk to auction houses, help identify different markets, and also help identify the things that maybe aren't even going to be candidates to sell. There's a lot of things that are here that will be candidates for donation, for giving to different charities or organizations that can benefit from them. And that is information the family needs to know, whether they decide to donate or not. They need to have the information of what are those items that, in my opinion, should be donated to charity, what should be offered to a doll specialist, what they should do with them. I'm sure as we look around, you're just seeing so much stuff. And it can be overwhelming when you walk into a place and you think, where do I even start? Well, for me, where I start is I just start in chunks and in sections. So when we came here the first day, yesterday, I started with the stage, and I looked wall by wall by wall, section by section by section, And in my head, I started to piece out the items, and I gave myself a threshold. Items that are around $100, items that are around $200. And I started to identify those items, and then the rest I could kind of mentally move out. And that's where I started my assessment. So I bet you're just dying to come and take a peek on this stage and see some of the things that are up here. You want to do it? I think it'd be fun. Come on in. Play Pal dolls are very popular. Remember when I had that huge load of Patty Play Pal dolls? I learned a lot about them from my good friend Greg Ortiz, who helped a lot. So right off the bat right here, we see a Peter Play Pal. But one of the things that I know, based off of my experience, is that this is a reproduction Peter Play Pal. This one was made by Ashton Drake Galleries, and they sell on a good day. You know, it kind of depends, but he's one of the items that is going to be around my $100 threshold. But I also had some that I sold them for $50, so it kind of just depends. But if he was a vintage Peter Play Pal, those dolls sell for over $500. So if it was a vintage one, that's something that I would tell the family. But since he's not, it's also important that I'm here to tell the family. So he's super cute though, isn't he? Here's another Play Pal doll. Let's see. So this one is a vintage Play Pal. I can tell by the marking, and I can also just tell by looking at it because I had so many over the summer last year. And you know, she is very, very, very sweet. So she's one that at auction is probably going to do pretty well because people just love their Play Pal dolls. So, and her hair is pretty intact, so that's important. Her clothes are not original, so that takes the value down, but she's going to be probably the $150 to $200 threshold, just because she is an original Play Pal in vintage and she's in relatively good, clean condition. Her joints are good. This is one of the pretty dolls that's in the case that is a very sweet late 1940s Margaret O'Brien. She is in really good condition. When you look close, you can see her composition is really nice. She hasn't been repainted. She doesn't have big spots of crazing or lines or lifting in her composition. She's relatively just in very, very good condition overall as you look right here. So one of the things that is worth mentioning is that right here on the tag, it says 1,000 to 1,500, which is pretty high for one of these dolls. So one of my jobs is to help make sure that the information is consistent with what is happening in the market. So it's going to be less than that. So sometimes the items are, and see she's marked Alexander on the back, but sometimes the items are marked with, you know, notes and things that are all very important that had the information that the previous owner paid. Sometimes the doll will sell for much more than they paid. Sometimes it's for much less. One of the things that I always try and remind people, and especially heirs, because it can be a little disappointing when they know mom spent X amount of money on things and now it's worth this much, or now it's worth this much, either high or low, is that dolls, we buy them for our personal enjoyment. We buy them for our personal enjoyment and for fun. And that's where they serve their purpose. They give us hope and love and joy and experiences, and we get to do all these things and travel with the love of our dolls. And so that's number one. That's how they pay us. So even with my dolls, I try not to get too attached to any kind of financial outcomes when I buy them or have them, because they're serving their purpose by enhancing my life. And what happens down the line, it'll be what it'll be. So, but she's a sweetheart and a fun one to look at. And you can tell that she was one of Phyllis's favorites because she has a prominent place here in the case. All right, we've taken in a lot, right? We're still going. So we've been looking up everything from the magazines to the everything. There's a lot of things that I'm like, I don't know, but I can look it up. And so that is one of the things that is good to know for everybody, is that if you can do the research and you can look it up and you can use different tools that are available on the internet, you can pretty much figure out anything as long as you do enough Googling and enough digging and searching. So this is a huge dollhouse right here in the entrance. This one is a lot of fun. I see dollhouses like this a lot, and dollhouses of this type and scale and size and age, they're hard to sell. They're difficult to sell. And so what I usually recommend is to donate it to a miniature museum. That's a good one. That's a big one. There's a lot of different things that you can do. If you can find somebody local in your town that might want to purchase it for their personal enjoyment or for a child, that's always a great thing. But these we come across a lot. Don't get me wrong, I love dollhouses, but big ones like this, they can be a little bit harder to place. And that's why it's been a perfect spot here with the glass walls and everything, so visitors can enjoy it because they are really fun to look at. There's a lot of rooms. We haven't even been in all the rooms. Let's take a peek in here. So I didn't even look at these dolls yet, but now I'm looking. So this is a Patty Play Pal type. She is the, let's see if we can just look at the marking on the back, because that helps us. It looks like an Allied Express, possibly. Well, but, and then this girl, she's got an interesting face. Let's see if we can get the marking here. V.E. Turner, 1998. So if I don't know exactly who the artist Turner is, I can look it up and see if I can find other things. You always look on the back of the neck to start. That's where you can find out information usually right away. Nestled up in here, we have modern dolls to what we call like decorator type dolls. where you could get, off QVC and in books where you could order stuff. And then also mingled in are antique composition dolls and vintage dolls like Chatty Cathy and Little Miss No Name and all kinds of different things. So there's a Mary Poppins, a Shirley Temple, F&B's. Check out this hunk. He's just chilling. Yeah. I don't know who he is, but maybe I could do a little digging and find out. But maybe one of the viewers will know. In this room, there's all kinds of lunch boxes, thermoses, mugs, memorabilia from childhood, nostalgia, all kinds of things. When you look around, you can kind of gauge and look and see what looks like something typical that you see a lot, that you know they made a lot of, and what might be a rarer example that I might take the time to look up on the internet. So that's one of the things that we do when we step into any room, is just take that second to look close. When I'm looking at it with my eye, I can tell which ones are newer and which ones are more vintage, and which ones you want to take the time and look a little bit closer at. So take a peek at some of the fun things in here. Phyllis Baskerville owned this place, and she spent many, many years filling it, bringing in people around the world, having a lot of fun, doing her thing, sharing her passion with the world. She was such a fun lady, and so it has been a joy and a pleasure to come here and to see all of these things and get to know more about Phyllis and meet her wonderful family. Her daughters are just so nice, and we've had a good couple of days here consulting and figuring out exactly what to do. Hi, so I am back in Denver. I want to chat with you a little bit about the appraisal process and everything that we do as appraisers and what that kind of looks like. I think that'll be very interesting and help answer a lot of questions I think that many people might have about the appraisal practice, what that looks like, what the job is entailing, and just some insider info of my experience being an appraiser over the last several years. With this particular assignment, this one was a lot a bit different from a lot of the assignments we do. And the first part that was different about it is that we were able to film and to show different things at the museum, at the place that we were. And normally we're never allowed to do that. So this gives us a nice opportunity to chat about the job and what we do, because I was able to show you an example of being on site and kind of showing you. So I took some notes and we're just going to chat about it a little bit. A lot of you are probably wondering, and I even got some emails asking, did you actually catalog and list every single item in that place? And the answer is no. If I was hired to do that, and a lot of appraisal assignments, in fact, most of them require that type of documentation, somebody would be working there for an entire year. It's not feasible for that assignment, and it wasn't needed for the clients. So what the clients needed for us was a consultation. And so our job was to come on site and to look through every single room, uncover every single box, every single cupboard, and look through and make sure that all of the items in there, that they generally had a good idea of what a fair market value should be for the item. They wanted to make sure that they didn't have any $10,000, $20,000 dolls there that they didn't know about. And so it's really important to have that kind of information, especially when you are looking at selling an entire collection or estate, and it's something that you need. When my mother passed away, I had a friend in the industry come in here and do the exact same thing for me. He went through and he looked in all of my cupboards and he gave me an opinion. And that is what I did for them, is for many, many hours, I looked through and I gave opinions. So that is a question that I wanted to answer, is did I put it in a report? No. If I was going to put it in a report where you listed every single item with what we call comparables, which is a price that is a comparable item that a similar item has sold for recently, to validate my opinion of value, it would probably take an appraiser a year, and the fee for that would be in the six figures. When I look at accepting any kind of assignment, we always look at what the goal is for the client, and if hiring us is even a good idea. So we were hired to consult and give our opinion on what they should do. As a consultant, it was my job to help identify relevant markets to help sell the items. Relevant markets can be anything from a local auction house, a national auction house, an estate sale, a private dealer, to help navigate those things that if you're not in the business, you don't have experience with this kind of thing, it can be really hard to figure out. So I helped identify relevant markets and ways to sell. Well, their ultimate goal was to have one person buy all of the items. And they have been trying to do that for a while, and they're hoping somebody does. So we haven't lost all hope there. But if that doesn't work out, then there are other options, such as an auction house. I helped weigh the pros and cons and chat through a lot of what those ideas, a lot of those markets would look like, would entail. We also made a video. We made a beautiful video for them to always have, and that video will live forever no matter what happens or where the collection goes, if it stays, if it goes, whatever. Eric did an incredible job editing, and I gave a fun tour, and it was beautiful. So that was one of the things that we were also hired to do, and I think we did a really good job. I hope you enjoyed that. I wanted to chat a little bit about what it looks like when somebody says, when they call and they say they want an appraisal. I'm a doll shop, number one. I am an appraiser as well. But when I do those different jobs, they're completely different jobs, and I am wearing different hats. The first thing that I always ask anytime anybody calls about an appraisal is, what do you want to do with the appraisal? What do you want to do with it? 99% of the time they'll say, oh, well, I'm trying to sell the item and I want to know what you'll give me. Well, that's much different. That's not an appraisal. They want to know what my offer would be for them to purchase it. When I work as an appraiser, I don't think I've ever done an assignment that wasn't for something that had to do with some kind of estate purpose. And so that is usually when there has been a case of a death and the family needs to have all of the personal property itemized and figured out for the family. And for divorces, those are usually the worst kind of assignments, because it's a very, they're never usually happy reasons why we're there. Our reports go to the IRS, and it's a very serious thing. So when I get to the bottom of what do they want to do with the appraisal, sometimes it's a donation too. We've done appraisals for major donations for major museums. When we're talking about this kind of thing too, our reports are not for something that is $200. They're tens of thousands of dollars. And that is why an appraisal with somebody with credentials, and we'll chat more about that later, the credentials and what that means and what it takes to keep them, that's why it's important to have. And that's why the IRS requires somebody with credentials, because it's usually a pretty big deal of why you're needing that report, because a lot of money is involved. When people call and they want a general idea, I don't ever put numbers in emails. I don't ever say to somebody, this is worth $50 or this is worth $100. And the reason is it's gotten me in hot water in the past, where people have left bad reviews on Google or on wherever because they didn't like what my opinion was. Unless I am entered into an assignment, we don't usually write any number down. But what I will always do is give a general idea, whether I say, this holds a moderate amount of commercial value. And then I usually take it a step further and find a similar item like on eBay to kind of give people an idea. Or if it's really low commercial value, then I just usually say this is a very sweet item. A lot of times these items hold a lot of sentimental value. They're priceless to a family history, but the commercial value is very low. And that's usually what I say. Or if it's an item that requires an appraisal, it's usually going to be in the multi-thousands of dollars, usually over 5,000. That's kind of where the benchmark is for when you start needing a written appraisal report. It's always a case-by-case basis, always, always, always. So when people call, I figure out just from the get-go what they're trying to achieve. One important thing to note for the appraisal practice is if I appraise something, I can't buy it. So when I am acting as an appraiser, it is completely objective. It is completely objective. And we have to, and I put in all of my reports that I have no interest in any of these items. That is something I have to explain right at the get-go, is that if you want me to handle this collection and you want me to sell it, I would be glad to consult with you, but not as an appraiser, because I can't do any report and then turn around and sell it. It's illegal. Appraisers have actually gone to prison for doing very unscrupulous things. It's happened in the art world and one of the appraisers was actually pretty famous, but he appraised an art painting really low and then was able to get one of his friends to buy it, but they were in cahoots with each other, and then it ended up selling for like, I think, millions. I'm not sure exactly, but if you're appraising something, you're not buying it. It's always two different things. And when I chat with anybody about anything, I always make sure they know exactly in what capacity that we're working together. What does it take to be an appraiser? A lot of people, I just wanted to discuss that a little bit too, because a lot of people, sometimes they look at the job and they think it looks really fun and exciting. And sometimes it is. And also, it's a lot of time not fun. It's not fun a lot of the time. One, because you're usually there for a reason that is not happy. And two, because there's been many times when as an appraiser, I gave the exact right information the truth. And the client was disappointed. They were disappointed. They're making a big donation and they think they're going to get all this money. And what the IRS wants to know is what something is worth on a fair market value, on a normal Tuesday, what a cash value is for something when you're making a donation, not some high insurance rate. There's a lot of times when you're working as an appraiser that you're under a lot of scrutiny and you have to deal with a lot of personalities and you're just like any job or any service, you're juggling a lot of different things in the appraisal world. So there's a lot of people that call themselves appraisers. Anyone can call themselves an appraiser, anybody. And in the appraisal world, when you are with the International Society of Appraisers, which is the one I'm with, or the American Society of Appraisers, there's two major appraisal schools that are recognized by, I would say, the government. And when you're a member of those, you're held to very high standards. And those standards are what we call the USPAP. It's the United Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. And it holds you to a lot of rules, which is really good. You need those rules when you're dealing with this kind of thing. When I started, it was probably 6 years ago, I went to Chicago and I went to school and I took the core course and I took the USPAP course and I passed, which was so exciting and wonderful. The coursework is thousands of dollars, I don't know, I've probably spent about $20,000 on my coursework over the years. I met some amazing people in class, some lifelong friends. The teachers were incredible. I learned so much. I really loved it. I don't regret it one bit. You have to re-up your education every couple of years, depending on the courses that you have taken. You have to get a certain amount of working hours every single year to hold your credentials. There's a lot of different things that you have to keep doing. The fees to be in the ISA are $650 a year, just to hold your badge. In addition to every 5 years, I think you have to repeat all the coursework, and every 2 years I have to repeat the USPAP. So it's something that if you want to hold, it's a pretty big deal. And it takes a lot of time and effort to be an appraiser, which I think is good. I think if you were able to just go and get a certificate off of taking a 1-hour class online, there would be a lot of people out there that would probably be out in the community doing a lot of disservices to a lot of people that when you're needing an appraisal, you're usually at a time in your life when you need somebody you can trust and you need help. And I really like helping people. So with most of my clients, I would say that they were so relieved to have my help. They were so glad to have what I offered. The only disappointed people, I think, were the ones doing the donations, and they thought it would be higher. But I haven't had too many disappointed people. But I wanted to provide some insight into what it means to be an appraiser and what it looks like to do that kind of work and how to get there. I went a little further in my appraisal education, where I took a fine arts course and then I took an antiques and residential contents course through the ISA. And both times with these courses, I flew to Chicago and took the course at their school. But like anything, if you don't keep learning it and rehashing and figuring it out and doing it day by day, you lose it. So I lost a lot of the fine art stuff. So when fine art comes my way, I usually will refer one of my fellow appraisers that is a fine arts specialist. So I am a doll specialist, and on my appraisal website and any time that I am representing myself in the appraisal world, I really like to do the dolls mainly because it's what I know, and I have colleagues and friends that I can bounce information off of. I have fellow appraisers that I have hired to consult on my own appraisals. Anytime I ever put anything in writing, I always make sure a trusted person that knows a lot looked at it too. My first thing as an appraiser is I will always say, I do not know everything. I run everything past somebody else, if not more than one person. And that for me, having that is a big load off. And what we learn in school is how to research things, to come to an opinion, how to figure it out, and how to document the items, and how to put it all together in a report. So that part of the process, the generating of the report, the production of the report, is what takes the most time. Not going to somebody's house and looking at their items and like knowing in my head what it is. That part's easy. You have to take a picture, you have to write a description, you have to document it, you have to give your opinion, you have to identify relevant markets, you have to have a discussion about the item, and then for a high-priced item, you have to put in at least 2, if not 3 price comparables, and then you have to argue your opinion on how you came up with that comparable for one item. And I have worked with estates where I appraised the entire house. When we're doing an appraisal assignment, it's a big deal. It's always, the average cost of an appraisal assignment is between $3,000 and $10,000 for an entire estate. And that's normal. That's very normal across the board. A lot of my fellow appraisers who are just, you know, top of their game, been doing this forever, they command you know, hundreds of dollars an hour for what they do. And it's very valuable for the people that require it. Another one of my notes is, just because I'm an appraiser doesn't mean that I know what something is worth. So that's a big one, because as an appraiser, you learn how to research stuff and how to figure it out. But one of the biggest drawbacks, I think, that has been, not a drawback, but it happens to me a lot, is that people say, oh, well, Rachel's an appraiser, she knows the price of that on everything. So somebody I may have gone to school with, their friend's cousin, they're sending me texts and emails and stuff. Hey, do you know what my grandma's such and such is worth? Just because I'm an appraiser, I would know off the top of my head. And that is not true. It is not true. Even on dolls, I still research. I still get other opinions. I still make sure that what I'm saying is true. And unless I truly, truly know it off the top of my head, then I research it. And then things that are not dolls, you better believe I'm researching it. So it's not something I can just casually spit out to whoever asks about it, whatever it is. The appraisal assignment at the museum in Indiana, that one was good in the sense that and this is appraiser talk. It's going to sound like, you know, but what they call it when you know off the top of your head what something is worth and what it is, it's called readily apparent identity. That's what they call it. But to me, it's just, you know what it is. And it was really great at this museum, because I was able to use the knowledge that I had, mainly also from being a dealer in this industry. I buy and sell things all day long. That's my job. And so I know the market extremely well, probably a lot more than people that are not in the game. And so I was able to give them very good opinions on everything. So I gave opinions just on, you know, single items, and then I also gave them an opinion on the entire estate, so that they knew they had the information so that they could make decisions, whatever that decision is. If you're selling it to one person, you're going to sell it to an auction house, you know, whatever it is, they needed the information, and now they had it. The people there were extremely nice. We had a wonderful adventure. And so that is what I love about the appraisal business and also the doll business, is that it creates an opportunity for adventure. No day in my life is ever the same. I have met some incredible people through the appraisal business, through the doll business, through our conventions. It is so cool that I just get to sit with you right now and have this discussion, and we can get to know each other a little bit more through all of our videos and all of the things that we do. This was fun for me to talk about because it's something I normally never talk about. I don't post photos from any of my assignments. I don't publicly talk about them ever. You know how they say you have attorney-client privilege and nothing ever goes past? That's the same for appraisal stuff. You don't ever discuss your clients, their items, ever. ever out loud. So it's a part of my life that I don't get to share very much. It's been a wonderful thing. I have enjoyed doing it, and I hope to continue to do it as long as I keep passing my courses and staying up on everything. I hope to do it. When I do an appraisal assignment, it's generally a pretty big one, because for me to stop my job here at the shop, it has to be a big one. Otherwise, I can't stop what I'm doing here to do appraisals. So I hope some assignments come my way, because in the future, because one of the most gratifying things really is helping somebody, having their moment, because I help them, where they can just breathe a sigh of relief and just know that they're able to move forward. And it's something that I really needed in the last year from people in the industry that helped me. So it is a wonderful service when you can help anybody. And a lot of you out there, just because you don't hold credentials, don't let that stop you when it comes to helping a friend or whatever, when they're trying to figure out something. Because usually when we're figuring out prices and stuff like that, we're using the same markets you are. One of the biggest tools that I use, and you'll want to write this down, is we use a website called WorthPoint, WorthPoint, and you pay a monthly fee, but it's a great service to help you look up prices on dolls. So that is a great tip for you. If you made it this far in the video, then that's your reward, because WorthPoint is great. You can also use eBay as a marketplace. You can use anywhere that you can find a relevant market where something legitimately sold, be it eBay, a recent auction house, Etsy, Ruby Lane. As long as you're looking at the sold price and not what it's selling for, and what you'll want to do, you don't want to just find one item. That's the key, though, is to seeing what something is truly worth on a fair market day, is you want to find several sold prices, usually 2 to 3. And say something sold for $95, $65, $85, you're going to want to look at why. There was probably a little bit of a variable in condition on the items. And then you kind of come up with an average, and that's what gives you an idea. When I am appraising something in an appraisal report, and my comparables, say I have a comparable that's $20,000, one that's $30,000, one that's $15,000, and this has happened, I have to say why that one sold for less. And sometimes it has something to do with the outfit, there might be a nick on the nose of the doll. There's a lot of reasons why things sell high and sell low. And sometimes an auction day, it'll just go crazy, and we don't know why. And things just go crazy. That's why you need more than one comparable, is what we call them. This was a fun little talk. I hope a lot of it made sense. You can always ask questions. I am always happy to help answer questions. Google is your friend a lot of the time when you're trying to figure something out, and there's a lot of really wonderful buying and selling groups where people will offer information. If I have an update on this museum about if they've sold it to somebody and it's going to stay there, or if it's going to auction, we'll definitely share that information with you. And we're looking forward to the rest of our wonderful Shoot for the Stars virtual doll convention. So we hope you're having a great time already, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.